Welcome, everybody. Good morning. We're going to spend some time singing. Why don't you stand up? Let's put our hands together.
My sin was before me, I was swallowed by pride. But out of the darkness you brought me to your light. You showed me your mercy and opened up my eyes. From the day you saved my soul till the very moment when I come home, I sing, I dance, my heart will overflow. From the day you saved my soul, a brilliant light is all around, and endless joy is the only sound. Oh, rest my heart forever now. Oh, in your arms I'll always be found. Yeah. From the day you saved my soul till the very moment when I come home, I'll sing, I'll dance, my heart will overflow. From the day you saved my soul, my love is yours, my heart is yours, my life is yours forever. Sing that out. My love is yours, my heart is yours, my life is yours forever. Everybody sing. From the day you saved my soul, get your hands up. Until the very moment when I come home, I'll sing, I'll dance, my heart will overflow. From the day you saved my soul, from the day you saved my soul, till the very moment when I come home, I'll sing, I'll dance, my heart will overflow. From the day you saved my soul. Brokenness inside of me, secrets that I tried to keep. You know every part of me, and every word that cripples me, all my insecurities. You know every part of me. You know it all. You see my faults, still you love scars that I have tried to hide. You know every part of me. When all my dreams begin to fade, the future seems so far away. You know every part of me. You know it all. You see my faults, still you love me. You love me, you never leave. Despite what you see, still you love me. You love me. You never tell, you never leave. My hope secure, 'cause you rescue me. You're always faithful, forever true. My life is changed, now I'm found in you. You never tell, you never leave. My hope secure, 'cause you rescue me. You're always faithful, forever true. My life is changed, now I'm found in you. You know it all. You see my faults, still you love me. You love me, you never leave. Despite what you see, still you love me. You love me. God, just knowing that you do know everything about us, every single detail. You know the numbers of hair that are on each of our heads, even right now in this moment. And there's also a side of us that's ashamed of other things that you know about us. If it weren't for your grace, we would be completely ruined in your presence. If it wasn't for your mercy and Jesus, the blood that you shed that covers us, and your grace that just carries us and rescues us, and our hope is secure today because of all of that. For your love, God, we just want to thank you. It's unconditional. We thank you that you don't turn away. You're always chasing us down when we run away from you almost on a daily basis. In some way, shape, or form, God, you are rescuing us. You're healing our hearts. You're putting back together the brokenness that's in us. We all, every single one of us, need rescuing. And brokenness in us healed. So I just pray that wherever we are, God, today, that we would just continue to meet with you and worship you as we continue in this gathering today. We love you. We ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. My name's Jonathan. It's great singing with you. Would you share your name with a few people around you, and then you can have a seat.
Hey, welcome to LCBC. My name's Kevin. I lead life groups here at LCBC in Manheim. So excited that you joined us today. Two quick things. Make sure as you sit down, you grab either the program we received on the way in or your LCBC app on your phone and check in by name. Let us know when you're here. That helps us a lot just to make sure we're staying in touch and all those things too. And as you fill out that form, you're going to put in the offering basket as it comes down your row. But if you've never been to newcomers, the next opportunity is January 7th. It's a great time to hear about us a little bit, but we want to hear your story and about you too. Make sure you save your seat for newcomers. As the offering baskets come down your road, that's our opportunity, you and me, to give to God 10% of our income. And it's what he asks of our tithe and our offering, that we bring that back to him and say, God, I trust you, in my finances like I do at other places in my life. And like Rachel and I, we give at lcbcchurch.com, and that's our opportunity to say, God, I trust you. All right, I want to give you 2 things we're celebrating and then 2 things that are coming up in a little bit. First, we're celebrating. We have seen above and beyond this month, our regular offering and tithe, a wave of generosity from you coming out. So I just want to say well done. We had almost 70% of our serve slots last week taken right away, which is awesome for Mannheim. David's going to give you the whole church number in a little bit, but I just want to say well done, Mannheim. And also, we had all those shoe boxes go last week. We have a couple more. You've seen a bunch come in, so you can take more shoe boxes today with you, but next week they're actually due. So make sure you bring them back. You can take them this week, bring them back next week. And then also what we're celebrating is today, or this weekend, actually, we are starting the new chapter for LCBC in Hazleton. And if you've got friends like I've seen on my Facebook being invited to join that, yes. If you've got friends, you need to invite them there. It's going to be amazing. And I'm actually going to ask you for a favor. In a couple minutes, when we join all the other campuses together, David's going to show you a picture and include them. Can you be like rowdy in inviting them to the family? Because I think that would be totally appropriate. Because you've been a part of that through One Life and what you've given, and we should certainly be celebrating Hazleton this morning. All right, 2 things coming up. If you're like me, you've been watching public discourse, civic discourse right now, it might have you a little discouraged. And so we're doing a series coming up called All Due Respect in 2 weeks. And really we're trying to challenge ourselves as followers of Jesus potentially, that we're going to try to rise above that current tide and say, how do we treat one another with all due respect? And so I hope that pings your curiosity to come back and join us in a couple weeks. And as helping lead life groups, I've been seeing a lot of life groups right now sending me pictures and posting pictures of Friendsgiving. You guys know what a Friendsgiving is? It's like Thanksgiving with the people you really want to be with for Thanksgiving. No, sorry, my mom's not here. It's fine. And so like it's one of those meals all year where you plan all the details out to make sure everybody feels super welcomed and loved when they walk in your home. And like you're making the specific things and making sure all the environment's perfect. And really, Christmas at LCBC for us is a lot like that one Thanksgiving or Friendsgiving meal, where we're going to plan all the details that are going to happen in this room for your guests when they come with you to Christmas at LCBC, knowing that this is the time of the year they are most likely to accept an invitation to come. Just a little traditional, like coming to that meal every year. It's traditional for them, but this could be the year where their life completely changes, because we're going to help introduce them to a Jesus who loves and cares for them and has the best life for them. And so we're going to plan some details here, but all of us play 2 really important roles in this. And the first one is no great meal or celebration is great without invitations. And so invitations go out this week. These are tickets to different gathering times at Christmas at LCBC, and you should take some for you, but also today take some for the next person you're going to invite to. Because God will show you that person to invite to bring with you. So pick up the invitation today, and tomorrow, we only got a month. Start inviting tomorrow to come to Christmas at LCBC. So be an inviter, don't sit it out. And then second, this is a little more personal to me too. Can you make sure every weekend you're here, also especially Christmas at LCBC, because sometimes this is the only impression people have of Jesus. Can you be an inviter, but also be really warm to guests that come into our campus here? That means in the atrium, smiling, saying hello, greeting people above and beyond what you normally would. Just be an unusually warm people, and I think that starts opening up people's hearts to being curious about the Jesus behind that warmth. Can you guys do that for me? I think that'd be appropriate. In the coldest months of the year, we become the warmest we can be. So, excited to see what we do this week for our last week of Be Rich.
Who we are as followers of Jesus doesn't depend on our social status.
It doesn't depend on our net worth. It doesn't depend on our inner circle.
We are called to love, to help where help is needed,
To defend those who can't defend themselves.
to go into a world that's hurting and offer hope.
That kind of love never falters.
It never fades.
It never fails.
We are compelled to show compassion through our actions and be rich in the way we love.
So we are in a series of studies that we've called Be Rich. But before we jump into Be Rich, and you're going to have to put up with my voice today. I apologize for that. But before we jump into Be Rich, I need to give a shout out to those of you that are at Hazleton location, our new campus, new location in Hazleton, and welcome to LCBC, those of you that are part of LCBC. Very cool to have Hazleton with us today. I don't know exactly what you look like today. We took this photo earlier in the week of your location. I guess my question is, how's the diner working out now? And we're hoping it's working well for you in Hazleton, and so glad to have you a part of LCBC. Well, every weekend across our 11 locations, about 15,000 people show up. And when we show up together, we basically do one of two things. We'll spend time, first of all, singing. And when we sing, really what we're doing is talking to God. It's just a way to talk to God and say, God, this is what we love about you. God, this is what we appreciate about you. And so as we sing together, we spend time talking to God. But there's a second thing we do every weekend together, and that's actually listening to God. And the way we listen to God is we open up the Bible. We believe that the primary way that God speaks to us is through the Bible. And so we open up the Bible and we allow God to teach us and God to actually lead us as followers of Jesus Christ. And so we do that every weekend. The last several weeks, we've camped on one particular message from God on kind of how we ought to do life if we're going to do life well. And this is the message that we've actually camped on. It's found in 1 Timothy chapter 6. Timothy is a church leader, and he's leading a group of people. He's leading a church, and this is an instruction to Timothy of how to lead his people. Timothy, tell your people, tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works, generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. Them are the followers of Jesus. Them, tell the followers of Jesus to use their money to do good. The followers of Jesus should be rich in good works, generous to those in need. Followers of Jesus should always be ready to share with others. Them, the followers of Jesus, is us. That's you and me. That's who we are at LCBC. We're a group of people who are following Jesus Christ. And we're not perfect people by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, we have so many imperfections. And we're not people that have life all together, that have figured out this is how to do life and how to do it well. We're people that struggle. We get lost. We mess up again and again. That's why we follow Jesus. We kind of go, we need somebody to lead us. We need somebody to guide us. And so we've chosen to follow Jesus, because we believe Jesus is the one that can kind of tell us how to do life and do it well today. We also believe Jesus is the one that takes care of eternity for us. And so we're a group of people that are saying, hey, let's follow Jesus. Now, in this particular message, instructions are given as to how we, followers of Jesus, are to do life so that we do life well. There's three specific instructions that are given in this particular message. The first is, tell them to use their money to do good. It involves money. Tell them to use their money to do good. Bottom line, he's saying, look, all of you have money. He doesn't say how much you have. He doesn't say you ought to have a lot of it. He just says whatever you have, use it to do good. So 2 weeks ago, we kind of pulled a number out of the hat. For the last 4 or 5 years, we've used the number of $39.95. And we said, what if all of us were to take $39.95, pull it together? Could we do good as a church? Could we do good in our communities? And so we did that, and you guys stepped up, and lots and lots and lots of money was given. And we'll tell you the totals in a week or so here of how much you gave. But what we do with that money is we take it, 100% of it goes towards our Be Rich initiative, and we take that money and we hand it out to different nonprofit organizations in each of our communities around all of our locations. This past week was a fun week because we had people from all of our locations going out and handing out checks. So there's nothing more fun than to show up at the door of a nonprofit and say, hey, we've got something for you. You're doing a good job. We're not here to tell you how to do it differently. We're not here to tell you how to do it better. We're not here to take your place. We're actually here to give you money, to support you, to say, keep going. You're doing a good job, and we want to use our money to help you do good. And so this past week, all across central Pennsylvania, checks were handed out. Just a real exciting week to be a part of that. First instruction that Timothy is given to tell followers of Jesus, you and I, what it means to really be a follower of Jesus is whatever money you have, use it. And use it to do good. It's not just about you, it's about others. There's a second instruction in this particular message as well. Tell them, again, to use their money to do good. They should be rich, and this is where we get the title of the series, Be Rich. Be rich in good works. The idea of being rich in good works is what we do with our time, what we do with our energy. Bottom line, it really involves serving others. Make sure that we're rich in serving others. Get out and do things for other people. So last week, if you were with us, we challenged ourselves. In this particular series, we're getting real specific. $39.95. Last week, a challenge to get out and serve other people. And so we told you, within those nonprofit organizations, and you can go to the website, they're listed there for you, what they are, but we said, let's serve, not only give money, but let's go back and let's serve in those nonprofit organizations. And we actually threw out a very specific number. The number was 4,071 serving opportunities in those nonprofit organizations. When we talk about serving opportunities, they may last an hour, they may take 2 hours, 3 hours, but they're all kind of right in that range. And we said if we could just flood these different organizations with manpower, what a difference it could make for them. So far, 2,006 of those slots have been taken. That means there's 2,065 slots still open. So it's not too late for you to jump in and say, okay, as a follower of Jesus, that's who we are, that's who you are. You're going to jump in and you're actually going to serve other people in this very, very practical way. And you may say, I don't know that I've got time. It's Thanksgiving. There's so much happening right now. Just sign up now. You can serve 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months from now, but you sign up and you serve now, and you start doing the things that a follower of Jesus ought to be about. But there's a third thing in that particular message that we're given as to what we ought to be about. Use your money to do good. Be rich in good works. Be generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. He says, always be ready to share with others. Bottom line, he says, share your resources. The resources that you have, be willing to share them with others. Again, he doesn't say how many resources you have. He doesn't say you have to have a lot. He doesn't say you can't have much. He just says whatever you've got, be willing to share it with others. And so the challenge for us today is, okay, if we're truly going to share our resources with others, then what does that look like? And God actually gets pretty specific about how we ought to go about sharing our resources with other people. As you begin to kind of read what God says about life and just how he views our world, one of the things you begin to see very specifically is God has great concern for those that are fatherless. God has great concern for children specifically that don't grow up in homes with a mom, with a dad. He's very concerned about what the Bible describes as just kind of the fatherless. And for whatever reason, God takes this very keen interest in children without parents. So much so, let me tell you several things that the Bible says about God himself. First of all, God says he's the protector, the father of all children who are fatherless. God says if there is a child that does not have a mom, does not have a dad, there are no parents in the home, he says, I'll step in. He says, I will be the father to the fatherless. Psalm 68 actually says it this way. Father to the fatherless, defender of the widows, this is God whose dwelling place is holy. God says, I'll step in that gap. I will be the father to the fatherless. Goes on, though. God also says all children deserve justice. Every child ought to experience justice in their life. No child should be taken advantage of. And Psalm chapter 10 actually says it this way. Speaking to God, you, God, see the trouble and the grief that they, the wicked, cause. You, God, take note of it, and you punish them. You punish the wicked. The helpless put their trust in you. God, you defend the orphans. And God is saying, you know what? Every child deserves justice. Now, as soon as I say that, you go, okay, that's a nice notion, David. That's a nice idea. But you say, look around the world. Look around the world, look in some of our neighborhoods, and you go, every child is not experiencing justice. Every child does not have a father. And so where is God? If he's going to show up and be the father to the fatherless, where are you, God? If every child doesn't experience justice, how come, God, you're allowing some children not to experience justice in their lives? How can you really be the father to the fatherless? How can you really bring justice? We don't see it happening, God, in our world. And I think that's a valid question, and that's where you and I come into the equation. You see, God actually asks his people, he asks us, he asks his followers, he asks us, he calls us to actively pursue meeting the needs of fatherless children. Every one of us. He calls us to actively pursue meeting the needs of fatherless children. It's his heart, it's his desire that every child experience justice, that every child receives care. And bottom line, what God tells you and me, he says, you and I, we're the hands and feet of God. We're his hands and feet. We're the ones that carry out the desires of God's heart. And it's God's desire that no child goes fatherless, motherless, that no child experiences injustice. And so he says, hey, that's where you come in. We're his hands and feet. That's the means by which children experience justice. That's the means by which children experience care. Another passage in the Bible, 1 Corinthians 12, all of you, all of us, all of the followers of Jesus together are Christ's body. Each one of you, each one of us is part of it. What this means is all of us, if we are followers of Jesus Christ, he says we are part of the body of Jesus. Every one of us. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter how young you are. It doesn't matter how many resources you have or don't have. It doesn't matter about your education. It doesn't matter about your ethnic background. It doesn't matter what the situation you have in life is. Every one of us is a part of the body of Jesus, and we've got a part to play. Every one of us. You have a part to play in the body of Jesus. And when you don't play the part, the body's not healthy. When you don't play the part, there's something that's missing. And God says, look, true followers of mine are going to care for fatherless children. Bottom line, true followers of mine are going to care for kids who are growing up in situations where they don't have parents. So much so, James actually says this in the Bible. Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father. He says, if you want to take everything else away, pure and genuine religion in the sight of God, he said, means caring for the orphans and widows in their distress and refusing to let the world corrupt you. And I think we get this one confused so often. We think as a true follower of Jesus, all I need to do is show up in church on the weekends, show up and sing the songs and open my Bible and look the certain way. And it's not even about that. It doesn't say anything over here about showing up in church. It doesn't say anything here about singing the songs. Instead, what it says is, hey, you want to show, bottom line, that you're a follower of Jesus? And why don't you try caring for people in need? Bottom line, that's kind of what he says. And so, true followers of Jesus, according to God, he said, are going to share their resources with those who are fatherless, those who have needs in their lives. So, for us as a church, we're saying we're followers of Jesus. We're instructed to share our resources with others, those in need, specifically those that may come and live in situations without parents. And so we step in and say, what's the best way, most effective way for us to do that? And we know there are needs everywhere around us. We also know we can't meet the need of every situation all around the world, but we can do something. And so what we've chosen to do as a church is to partner with organizations that are good at caring for the needs of other people. And all around the world, each of our locations, each of our campuses actually has a community somewhere around the world where we're partnering with an organization to help meet the needs of people in need in those communities. And so 3 of our locations work in Haiti, work in Honduras, a couple in Bolivia, in Kenya, in Syria, in India. And we know that we're not experts in those countries. We don't know how to take care of all the needs. But what we can do is partner with organizations that are experts in doing those things. And so we work with World Vision. We work with Compassion International. We work with Food for the Hungry, other organizations. And we say, we will partner with you. And together, let's make the difference that we can in the life of one child, maybe one family, hopefully an entire community in each of these regions around the world. So the way we do that specifically is to sponsor kids. And when we talk about sponsoring kids, what that means is each of us, followers of Jesus, make a choice. And we decide that we're going to partner, let's say, with World Vision, or we're going to partner with Food for the Delete Freedom Network, let's say in India. And you decide you're going to sponsor a child in India. What that means is you make a commitment. For between $30 and $40 a month, you're going to pick a child and you're going to send Delete Freedom Network $30 to $40 a month, and they're going to funnel that money into the community where that child lives so that child's life can be different. And you do that month after month after month. And all of a sudden, that child receives clean water to drink. They receive food to eat. They receive an education so they can grow for the future. They receive medical attention. They receive information about what it means to also, for them, be a follower of Jesus Christ. It means they get hope for the future. And here's the cool thing. When we start doing this collectively as a group, then all of a sudden the numbers get real staggering. Right now, around 4,500 children around the world are sponsored by people at LCBC. 4,500 children whose lives are different because of you. And I go, that's an amazing number to think about, because not only do you change the life of that child, you also change the life of his family, her family, and that community. And so you're doing an amazing job with that. And for me, I always like to kind of figure, okay, so what does that mean and what all does that really entail? And so I monetized it. If you figure 4,500 kids at about $35 to $40 a month, all of a sudden we're talking about $2 million every year that you guys, LCBC, sends to these communities around the world so that lives can be different. That's what I call sharing our resources with those who are fatherless. And I just go, that's a staggering number. It's not one time, once a year. It's every year, year after year after year. And so I just go, way to go. That's an amazing thing to consider. Now, if you're like me, I tend to be a skeptic. So I'm always asking, okay, so that's great to hear, David, but how do we know it's really working? How do we know that it's really making a difference in the lives of the children where we're sending that money? Is it really worth $2 million a year to invest in these communities? Is it really worth my investing $30 to $40 a month to make a difference in those communities? And so to answer that question, I've actually invited somebody to come and kind of tell us, answer that question for us. Michael Chitwood works with World Vision, and I've invited Michael to come and kind of help us figure out, is it worth it? Is it making a difference? And so I want to ask you, I assume Michael is coming here. There he is. So help me welcome Michael.
Thanks,
David. Good to have you here.
Brother. Yeah.
So Michael works with World Vision. I'm going to let him tell his story a little bit and tell you what he does with World Vision. But as you kind of talk, Michael, I would love for you to just kind of, is it making a difference? Is it worth us doing this? Is this a good investment of our time? So real good to have you here.
Thanks
I think the best way for me to do that is just get out of the way, and I'll get my squeaky voice off from you, and just kind of answer that question for us. Tell us, is it working or not?
Yeah, thanks so much, David.
Yeah,
it's great to be here with you all. And to help answer that question, I want to tell you about my sponsor child, Maureen. But before I do that, I want to just tell you a bit of my story and how I wound up at World Vision. I grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is kind of a safe place to grow up. It's kind of like living in a bubble. And I had two parents that loved me, grew up in a Christian home, two older brothers, Dan and Dave, that were my heroes. I went to a great school, had a great church family. To be honest, as a kid, life was pretty easy for me. Where I grew up, you could start playing full contact football in second grade. And so I played football from second grade all the way through college, where I played defensive line. And when I finished college football, I swore off two things: morning workouts and running. I absolutely hated running as a defensive lineman. Well, right out of school, I became a fifth grade teacher in an impoverished area about an hour south of Chicago. It was after my second year of teaching, my dad invited me to go on my first missions trip, and I went with him to Haiti to train teachers there. I never forget the first two words I learned in Haitian Creole: moi grand goût, moi grand goût. I'm hungry, I'm hungry. Young kids would run alongside the vehicles we were in, and they'd say those words: I'm hungry. I'm hungry. And I'd seen poverty before. The first homeless person I ever met was actually a 10-year-old girl in the class that I taught. But I'd never seen anything like this. Kids with no food to eat, no safe water to drink, and often no shelter over their heads. And so I came back from Haiti with an application to teach there. I thought that's how I could go help these kids. But I was getting married the next summer, and everyone I told that we were going to get married and move to Haiti told me it was a terrible idea, that it wasn't safe. And so despite a deep desire to do something to help those kids, I froze, I chickened out, and I let fear get the best of me. Instead, I took an awesome job with Youth for Christ doing high school ministry. And my time at Youth for Christ was awesome. I loved it. But I knew deep in my heart I had ignored a whisper from God to do something to help those kids. Well, it was during my first year of ministry at Youth for Christ and my first year of marriage that I experienced my first real experience with pain. We lost my dad very suddenly following what was supposed to be a routine shoulder surgery. He went in, supposed to be in one day, out the next, and ended up having some complications, slipping into a coma, and passing away on Mother's Day 2001. I was in my first year of marriage, my first year of full-time ministry, and it really wrecked my faith. I was struggling to even talk to God. It was 2 years later, almost to the day, that I got another phone call that changed my life. It was one of my best friends from high school, Mark Smith, and he was calling to tell me he was going to run the Chicago Marathon and wanted to invite me to come watch him run. Notice Mark did not invite me to run the marathon with him. I was not a runner. I was the farthest thing from it. I had taken that commitment to no morning workouts and no running seriously, but I kept eating like a defensive lineman, and by this time I weighed about 265 pounds, and I couldn't run around the block. But I heard a whisper that I'm certain was the Holy Spirit, and it was just 2 words: do this. So despite never having even run a 5K, I signed up to run the Chicago Marathon. And I know, not the smartest idea. Over the next 6 months, I trained very slowly. I was so slow, my friends would say, "Hey, Michael, I thought you were training to run that marathon." I'd say, "I am. I'm training all the time." And they say, oh, I keep seeing you out walking all over town all the time. I was very slow. I was no good at running. But something amazing happened while I was training for that marathon. I started talking to God again. And he used that experience to restore my faith. And that October, I told the start line of my first race ever, the Chicago Marathon, and it was electric. It was one of the most incredible things I've ever experienced, and it was terrible. It was harder than I could have imagined. I barely even finished the race, but it changed my life physically, spiritually, and emotionally. And I decided that day I would do a race like that every year for the rest of my life. So that next summer, I heard about the Ironman triathlon, and I decided I wanted to do it. If you don't know the Ironman, it's a 2.4-mile open water swim, followed by a 112-mile bike ride, followed by a 26.2-mile run. When I signed up, I didn't own a bike, and I didn't know how to swim. That's not that I know, it's not the smartest move. But I had seen what fear can do to you. Fear kept me from moving to Haiti. Fear almost made me quit training for my first marathon. In fact, I've come to believe that almost every amazing thing God has for us in this life is on the other side of fear. And you have to step through fear to get to it. Well, one day I was on a 5-hour bike ride training for the Ironman when God gave me what I can only describe as a vision. He laid on me this idea that I could take these races and use them to raise money for the poorest children and communities in the world. And I knew immediately that's what I was going to do with my life. And through the grace of God, I found myself at the doorstep of World Vision, sharing this idea with them, and they let me start it. And so in 2006, we started a ministry called Team World Vision. In that first year, we just had 100 people sign up for the Chicago Marathon, and we raised about $100,000 for clean water projects. But over the past decade, we've helped over 30,000 people cross finish lines, and we've raised over $30 million for clean water projects in Africa. It's been amazing as I've had a front row seat to see what God's doing, both in the lives of the people here who are taking on this challenge, because most of them are not runners, but it's also been amazing to travel to Africa 15 times to see the amazing work that's happening there through the efforts of people here. But I've also had some more heartache along the way. One of the toughest realizations I had when my dad died was that I'm only 25 years old. And this is my first real experience with pain. I realized the longer I live, there will be more pain and heartache to come. And then in 2009, we lost my brother David to alcoholism, obesity, and depression. And then just as I was getting back up on my feet and kind of catching my breath, in 2013, we lost my brother Dan. He went upstairs to get ready for his daughter's 8th grade basketball game, and he never came down. Both my brothers left behind 4 young kids without their dad, young wives widowed. And as if losing my dad wasn't enough, losing 2 of her 3 kids broke my mom's heart. And it literally crushed my spirit. You know, sometimes it's so easy to get caught up in our own pain and everything that's happening in our own lives. It's easy to forget there are people in this world who are facing insurmountable amounts of pain and suffering. That people that are facing challenges we can't even wrap our heads around. And you know, there's often very little we can do about our own pain, but there's always something we can do to help relieve the pain of others. And so when I get kind of self-centered and caught up in my own stuff, I try to think of my World Vision sponsor child, Maureen, and her mom, Josephine. Maureen was just 3 years old the first time I met her. She lives in a small village in Kenya, and when I met them in 2010, their community had no access to safe water. In fact, Maureen and her mom had to walk down a mountain about 2 miles to get water that wasn't even safe to drink. The child mortality rate in their community was 50%, which means kids in their community only had a 50% chance of seeing age 5. When I met Josephine, she often wondered if their kids would have any food to eat. You see, it's easy to get caught up in my own pain and my own grief. I can forget that there are people in this world like Maureen and Josephine who face things that we can't even imagine. But the amazing thing is that since World Vision's been working in their community, everything has changed. I've seen them get access to safe water. I've seen health clinics built and schools built, and everything in their community is changing. You know, Jesus talks about something in Matthew 25 that I just want to share that God's been teaching me. And you're probably familiar with the verses where Jesus is giving some instructions to his disciples about what it'll be like when we meet him in heaven and on that final judgment day, and how he's going to be able to tell those who loved him by how they responded to the needs of others. And he's saying, when you saw me hungry, you gave me something to eat. When you saw me thirsty, you gave me something to drink. And when I was a stranger, you welcomed me. And when I was sick, you looked after me. And when I was in prison, you visited me. And they say to him, Jesus, when did we see you in any of these situations and help you? And he gives this reply, and it's really a truth bomb. He says, truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, it's as if you did it for me. Now that verse seems pretty straightforward, but we often truncate it, we cut it in half, and we focus on this phrase, the least of these. Whatever you did for the least of these. And I think that's a mistake because we're skipping a key part of what Jesus is saying, right? He's calling them his brothers and sisters. He's saying that the people the world sees as the least of these, I'm inviting you to consider them as part of your family. And church family, if we do that, it has the power to radically change our entire worldview. Because you see, as long as I can keep you a stranger, I can keep my needs, the needs of my family, my community, my country, my people, above the needs of you and your family and your community and your country and your people. But as soon as I truly believe in my heart of hearts that Josephine is my sister, her needs matter more to me. Her children matter more to me. Her family, her community matter more to me. And I'm compelled not simply just to care more. I'm compelled to do more. In fact, I should be compelled, if I truly believe she's my sister, to respond to her family's needs the same way I would respond to my own family's needs. You see, church family, if you had told me a decade ago that sponsoring a kid like Maureen for $39 a month could change her life and change mine, I don't know if I would have believed you. But I've seen firsthand her life change, her family change, her community change, and my life and my family change as a result of this relationship. To give you a little peek into that, I'd love to share a video with you. It's like God chose Maureen to be my sponsored child. It is unreal how similar we are in our personalities. She is so silly, and she's full of energy. She goes 100 miles an hour all the time, and people always tell me that about myself. She laughs and goofs around. She's super outgoing, but she still loves to cuddle and be quiet. So it's literally like God chose her to be my sponsored child. The issue of clean water is huge. So I thought, maybe if I sponsored a child in Kenya in a community that doesn't have access to safe water, it would make the issue of clean water more personal to me. When I first came to Bartabwa, there was no access to safe water. People were walking several miles, 2 or 3 times a day, just to get water that wasn't even safe to drink. The child mortality rate in Bartabwa at the time was 50%. That means kids only had a 50-50 shot of seeing age 5. And Maureen was only 3.5. So she was already on her way to beating the odds, but it left me with a sense of urgency that we need to get clean water to this community. World Vision's child sponsorship program is unique in so many ways. World Vision focuses on tackling the root causes of poverty. What they do is they pool that money with the money from all the other child sponsors of over 3,000 kids in this community. They pool that money, and now they can do large-scale community development projects. Instead of just drilling a well right here in Maureen's community, World Vision is going to try and tackle the water problem from a holistic perspective. They're going to try and go from zero access to safe water to 100% access to safe water. Not just for Maureen, but for over 23,000 people in this community and in communities just like hers all across Africa. That little girl is so amazing. I truly wish every one of you could meet her, because I really believe if folks could just see that the kids on the other side of that picture folder are real, that everybody I know would sponsor a kid. And I wish I could tell you that I had plane tickets and we're all going to leave church today and get on a jumbo jet and we're going to fly to Kenya. But I don't have that kind of money. So I did the next best thing. Would you guys help me welcome my sponsor child, Maureen, all the way from Kenya? I'm going to teach you to say hello in Swahili. Can we say jambo? Jambo. I'm so excited that you all get to meet my favorite 10-year-old on the planet. Maureen won't start learning English for another year or so, but she's learning. She's getting there. So we're going to just try a few simple questions so y'all can get to know her. Sweetheart, could you share your full name with everybody?
My name is Maureen Jepkorir Chelagat.
Maureen Jepkorir Chelagat. And Maureen, how old are you?
I am 10 years old.
10 years old. Maureen, do you remember the first time I came to visit you and your family?
Yeah.
Yeah? You were just a little girl, 3 years old. You see how tiny she was. She was scared to death. We were the first Americans to come to their community. I made a huge mistake. I brought her a stuffed animal, a little teddy bear, and when I handed it to her, she started bawling because she thought I had handed her a dead animal. She'd never seen anything like that. She's obviously seen more stuffed animals since then, but when we went there, World Vision had just started working there, and literally no access to safe water. Over the past 7 years, everything has been changing in their community. Maureen, I've had the chance to spend time with your whole family. Could you share the names of all your brothers and sisters with everybody?
Justin, Shadrach, Jabet, Elias, Aston, Millicent, Jacqueline, me, and Mom.
You and Mom. And that's most of her family there. Maureen's the youngest of 8, and that's their home you can see in the background. Pretty typical home in their area of Kenya. But Maureen, you also have gotten to spend time with my family. What's my son's name?
Cruz.
Cruz. There he is. My son Cruz was born just 6 months after my brother Dan passed away. And you know, this relationship, getting to share my family with hers, has been amazing. Actually, Maureen's name is one of the first words my son learned to speak. He's been praying for her by name every night since he could talk. And the awesome thing is I know that Maureen and her family pray for us too. And this relationship has become incredibly special to me. Maureen, could you share, I know that you're only 10 years old, but we've talked a little bit about your dreams for the future. Would you share with everyone what you want to be when you grow up?
I want to be a doctor.
A doctor. Right on. Yeah. I hope you all agree with me that Maureen can and should be able to pursue any dream God puts on her heart. But church family, the truth is, if Maureen didn't have access to safe water, she wouldn't be in school right now. If she didn't have a good school to go to, she might not be able to get into a good high school or into college where she could pursue that dream. If Maureen didn't have access to health care, then a couple years ago, when she got blood malaria, it could have taken her life. You see, the work World Vision is doing in their community through child sponsorship gives Maureen the opportunity to live life in all its fullness, to pursue the purpose God has put on her heart, right? And I know that Maureen's life is different because of our sponsorship, and I know my life is different. And I also know that it's a ridiculous privilege that I get to go visit Maureen because I work for World Vision and see this stuff firsthand. and see the difference being made in her life. And I know that most of you will never meet your sponsored child, at least not on this side of heaven. But that doesn't make your impact in their lives any less real. And Lord willing, I pray that one day God lets us meet up in heaven and that you're going to get to meet your sponsored child and they're going to get to tell you all about the difference you made in their lives, and you'll get to share about the difference they made in your life too.
My name is Jeremiah Nyaga. I work as the Associate Programs Director in World Vision Kenya. Many times people ask me a question, who is your favorite child, having worked with World Vision for quite some time? And I'm quick to say, Jeremiah is my favorite child. And who is Jeremiah? Jeremiah is myself. Because I'm among the few fortunate children who got a kind sponsor. With the sponsorship, I finished my high school, I went to university, I was lucky to get that education. I'm married, I have 2 beautiful girls. The children are already in school and they are thriving and they are doing well in school. Had it not been that kind sponsor, I would not be where I am. Probably I would be lost like the many children who are there. So I give all the glory to God. I have a brother who was not able to be lucky like me. Because he was not educated, he's not been able to get a job. He's married, but the children have not been able to go to school because there's that cycle of poverty. There are very many vulnerable children. Children are not able to go to school. Others are only able to have 1 meal in a day. You coming through for a child and coming through with a kind gesture, either through that donation that you give per month, whether it is a one-off donation, it makes a whole difference. The donors and the sponsors who are supporting the Ministry of World Vision, allow yourself to be used as a vessel to bring transformation to the lives of children. It's all about God. It's all about what God can be able to do.
Well, as you can see, I've been joined by a few more people on stage. This is Hannah, one of my World Vision Kenya colleagues, and Hannah oversees 12 area development programs, including Kalawa, the community that LCBC is partnering with, and she oversees our work with several 100,000 people, so I'm glad to have Hannah here. And this is Justin, Maureen's oldest brother. So Justin's the oldest in the family, and Maureen's the youngest, and Justin actually finished university a couple years ago. He's the first in one of the first in his entire community to do that, but Justin, you were actually Maureen's age in your community before World Vision started working there. So before the schools were built, before the health clinics were there, before the clean water projects. And so you did that walk down the mountain every day for water for years. Could you share a little bit about what it was like growing up when you were a kid?
Thank you so much, Michael. Judge, I can say here in the U.S., life is more easier, it's more good, because last time I was in Alaska with my team here, and it was my first time to see a snow. Apart from water, you have something else, which is a snow. So when I was growing up in Bartapua, where I come from, life was really so challenging because I had to wake up very early in the morning, as early as 3 a.m. with my mom. Sometimes we take supper and then we go wait a long line in the river or the spring that we are fetching the water. So, and the water that we were fetching was actually not clean. It came with a lot of diseases, a lot of waterborne diseases, I mean. So it claimed the lives of so many young children. For me, I can say I thank God because I'm alive. I didn't die because of the waterborne diseases, because I lost my greatest friend when I was in preschool, and I still think about him until today, because he just took some water. It was dust, and he took some water from that water from a river, and ended up in the evening he felt a kind of stomach problem, and later he passed on. So it's so sad. So apart from the lack of clean water, something else comes in, which is the waterborne diseases. And also the hassle of waking up very early in the morning. You go to school, you are tired, you cannot listen in class. At the end of the day, at the end of the term, your performance goes down. So life was so difficult. Women have to wake up very early in the morning with children. So, but after World Vision came in, life really changed because they built supported schools to bring water tanks. They built latrines for children. And today I can speak to you and I with confidence that life has really changed. Enrollment in school is very high. There is no woman, there is no child that wakes up very early as 3 a.m. like me and will go for 10 to 15 kilometers to fetch water. World Vision has done wonderful, and all of you who are sponsoring children know that you are changing lives. And apart from changing life, you are touching our lives. For me, as a living testimony, I can tell you, you are doing a good job. Continue the same spirit, because God will bless you to the 100th generation as we believe in Africa. Thank you, World Vision, and thank you for all those who are supporting children from our community. Yeah. And the greatest respect goes to the World Vision for the good job.
Thank you so much, Justin. Yeah.
Did you catch what he loves here in the United States is our snow, which we told him we'd be happy to send more snow back to Africa with him. The other thing I want to make sure you notice, he is the typical adult anywhere in the world, but he hasn't yet, I've been around him for 2 days now, he hasn't put his phone down. And even in Kenya where there isn't much, they've got their phones and they hang on.
And Justin's good at selfies too. Well, I love hearing about World Vision's water project because World Vision is now the leading provider of clean water in the world. But World Vision doesn't stop with water. Hannah, could you share just a few of the other types of programs that World Vision is implementing in communities like Maureen's?
Thank you, Michael, and LCBC Church for having us here. Those who have been to Kalawa, which is being supported by this church, have seen some of the projects we do. Apart from the water projects, we also have education projects where we improve the learning environment in school, ensuring children do not learn under trees, but in decent classrooms. They do not sit on stones and logs, they sit on decent desks. We also do health projects, where we ensure, we try to work with the government to improve the health care, because many households that are vulnerable suffer. Like, for example, expectant mothers have to walk long distances to get health care, to get places to deliver. So because they can't walk 20, 30 kilometers, they deliver at home and they risk losing their lives. And those ones who are lucky, they cannot carry those children on their backs long distances for immunization. So many of the children do not see their 5th birthday because of diseases. We also have food security projects where because many families actually do not have food. So you find young children like Maureen going to bed in empty stomachs, waking up and going to school in empty stomachs. So we work with households and families to help them to give them technology that they can grow food so that at least they can have 3 meals per day. So thank you, LCBC, for the support you've been giving us. It has been doing a lot of good things in Kalawa, both in spiritual nourishment of the children and communities, because some of the teams that come down to Kalawa train children workers and pastors who are able to train, to go back to their communities and be game changers and bring people to Christ, as well as steering development in the communities. So thank you so much.
Yeah, hey, can I tell you about Hannah real quick? So every time we go to Kenya and we meet the World Vision staff, we always say we have yet to meet a World Vision staff person in Kenya that we don't fall in love with. And Hannah's one of those people. And as Michael said, she oversees, 10 or 12 different communities and the work that's going on there. She oversees the work in Sakuru and Kalawa, which we've been a part of. And we've had a number of teams go over to Kalawa and, as Hannah was saying, work with churches, work with the pastors there, and just helping them and train them, and children's workers. And so it's been a great opportunity to be there. But we love Hannah. And when we're done, You're going to have opportunity to actually, if you'd like, to meet all four of them. And so in a moment, I'll tell you kind of where you can do that. But it's great having Hannah here, along with Maureen and Justin and Michael as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, David. The staff, World Vision has about 45,000 staff worldwide. So when we talk about the work we're doing, our staff in the field like Hannah, you know, in Kenya alone, I think we're right around 850, 900 staff just in Kenya, working in these communities, implementing these projects, working with the families, knowing these kids personally. And so in a minute, when David gives you instructions, and you know, you saw the picture folders out there, and the first time I saw Maureen, it was on a picture folder, and it seemed abstract and far away, and is this kid real? And that's why I wanted to bring Maureen to meet you all, and you get to meet her. Because those kids on those pictures are more than just a picture. There's a human being on the other side of that picture, on the other side of the world. And you have an opportunity to invite them to be a part of your family, to write letters, to care for them. Let them know someone in this world loves you and believes you should have the opportunity to be a doctor or a teacher or a pilot or whatever dream God puts on your heart, that every kid deserves those opportunities. And so in a minute, David's going to give you instructions on if you'd like to pick one of those kids to be a part of your family. We'd love to invite you to do that today. There's nothing I spend $39 a month on more important than this little kiddo right here. Could we give a round of applause and thank our Kenyan family for coming?
So the sponsored kids are real, and it's not just Maureen, it's not just Justin, but there are thousands of them. And about 2,500 of you sponsor kids in Kalawa and in that region. And so if that's you, I would just say, way to go. You are definitely making a difference in the lives of those children, in the lives of their family. You're changing that community. And so I would say, way to go. And don't lose heart, and don't get discouraged, but keep doing it. And then for those of you that maybe in the past you haven't, for whatever reason, been able to, chosen to, maybe it's the first time you're hearing this, love to invite you to jump in and sponsor kids with us. There are about 600 more children in that region that have yet to be sponsored. Love for you to jump in and be a part of that. The way you can do that is when we're finished in just a moment, you can head out into the atrium. In the atrium, there are pictures of kids, there are packets with their pictures, and you can go through, you can pick out a child based on however you want to do it, whether it's a boy, a girl, their age, their birthday, however you choose to do it. And you can look and you can pick that child, and that could be the child that you sponsor there in the Kalawa region. I think I've told you before, we first did this about 12 years ago. Before the gathering, nobody else was here, and we had all the names, all the cards out on tables, and so I was just kind of walking through, looking at them with Ruth. And as I began looking at them, I noticed that first child I looked at, his name was Ken. The next one was Ken. The next one was Ken. Then I started noticing the girls were named Ken. And after looking at about 10 or 12, I'm going, this whole thing's a scam. They're all named Kim. That can't happen. But then I realized, oh, it's just short for Kenya, Ken. And so it's not a scam. If you see something, don't be the skeptic like I am. But it's a real deal. These are real kids, and you can change their lives. When you came in, you should have gotten a card like this. Just go ahead and fill it out. And then when you go back, you can turn that in, pick out a child, and let them know who you picked, and you can make a difference. So excited that you're here today. True followers of Jesus, we're told, are rich. Rich in the things that we do with our resources, rich in the way that we spend our time, rich in the way that we care for the needs of others. I hope that that is what characterizes all of us here at LCBC. As we wrap up, if you would want somebody to pray with you, then after every gathering, over to my right, your left, there are people there that would love to pray with you as we finish up. I'm going to finish up by just praying for Kalawa, praying for Justin, Maureen, Hannah, and what they're doing there in Kenya, and invite you to pray with me, and then we're done, and then you can head out, and if you want to choose to sponsor, you can do that. But join me in prayer, and let's ask God to watch over them. Heavenly Father, very cool to have Maureen here with us, her brother Justin, have Hannah here with us, and Michael. Father, I thank you for the fact that their lives are different because followers of Jesus have stepped up and offered to sponsor and offered to make a difference in their lives. God, I thank you that you've changed our lives through Jesus, that, Father, you direct us in how to live our lives well today. You say, man, Jesus is the one that takes us into eternity. Father, I thank you for that. And now, Father, I pray that we truly would follow you. We wouldn't just listen, but would act on what we hear. And you tell us, followers of Jesus share their resources with others, specifically those that have needs when it comes to their families. And so, Father, as we have this opportunity today to make a difference in Kalawa, nudge us. And as you nudge us, may we respond to your nudge and do what you ask us to do. God, I pray that you would be with Maureen, with Justin as they continue to grow, that they would have the education they need, that they would have the food, the resources they need, that you would cause them to learn to love Jesus as we do. And Father, as they do, may their lives make an impact on others as well, right there in their own communities. And for Hannah, bless her and the work that she's doing in all of these communities there in Kenya, Michael as well. And Father, for us as a church, may we be a church that truly follows Jesus. May we be a church that makes a difference in the lives of others. Thanks for loving us, God. We love you, and we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.